So here we have the Cascade Mountains, right? And the string of volcanoes and stuff. Mount Hood is in Oregon down there. And then Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens, Rainier, Glacier Peak, Mount Baker. You can't really see Glacier Peak from I-5 or Mount Adams, but they're both there. Mount St. Helens, St. Helens, you got to go to St. Helens sometimes. You can't see it from I-5. Rainier, of course, everybody's seen that. Mount Baker, everybody's seen it. And going down into Oregon. Now, Oregon has some amazing geology. If you ever get down to Bend area, especially, there's this whole bunch of different volcanoes down there. And they go down to Mount Shasta and Lassen Peak into California. That's the Cascade Mountains. And they are, like I say, volcanic mountains. Now, they don't erupt every day, but this is kind of an interesting diagram. As a matter of fact, if we were in the regular classroom right now, you would have an assignment where you'd have each of these volcanoes. You have to count up how many times it's erupted in the last 4,000 years and identify them and stuff. And a few of them might have on the test that you have to be able to identify. But how many? Baker has erupted once in the last 4,000 years. It wasn't all that long ago, actually, but once. Glacier Peak has erupted a few times. Rainier is technically the most dangerous of all the volcanoes, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it doesn't erupt very much. It's like 4 times in the last 4,000 years. And then St. Helens, you can tell it is the one that is definitely the most active. That's the one that erupted 40 years ago, almost to the day, May 18th. It'll be the 40th anniversary. Adams once, Hood, Jefferson, not at all. Three Sisters and down in Oregon, Newberry, Crater Lake, Shasta, Lassen. They've all a few eruptions. Okay, so Mount St. Helens, May 18th, 1980. Now this is what Mount St. Helens, the Spirit Lake, looked like before. Look how pointy it was. Sometimes they called it the Fiji of the Northwest because it was or did I say Fiji? I misspoke. Fuji, Mount Fuji in Japan is famous for being very symmetrical. Well, so was Mount St. Helens before it erupted. Now this is the ash coming out during the eruption, taken from an airplane, the picture. And again, I mentioned before, this is actually powdered rock. Okay, it's the lava that sprays like a spritzer in a liquid form, sprays out as the water in the moisture from having subducted down from what used to be seafloor, and it comes spraying out when that moisture expands rapidly when it reaches the surface. And that's what gives it its explosive quality and the spray. And then it's so hot, the air around it is very hot. It just goes up because hot air rises like a hot air balloon. Now this is what the summit used to be. And this whole part just slid right down the side. They weren't expecting that. And here's a view more or less of today. You can see the bulge is starting to move back again, and it's growing. It'll erupt again. But this is really a place that you got to go there. I mean, sometime or other, when you get a chance, maybe this summer or sometime, take a road trip. Go see Mount St. Helens. It's really impressive. I got to tell you, I was one of the last people to ever see Mount St. Helens before it erupted. I was taking a geophysics class, and 6 days before it erupted, I was standing on the ledge looking at it, going, oh, I hope it erupts. It would have killed me. I'm really glad it didn't erupt when I was there. It didn't kill me because it erupted 6 days later. But anyway, that's another story. Here's the picture. You can see Mount Baker. Or no, that's Mount Rainier from the south. And then there's all the ash going up off of it, just spraying out. And the ash fall was pretty bad, especially around Yakima, areas like that. This stuff is very heavy. I mean, it's stone, and when it came down in rain form, it collapsed a few roofs, and it can be very dangerous for driving an automobile for it. It's an abrasive. And so they had to clean up Yakima and areas there. Ritzville got the worst of it, but Yakima got it pretty bad too. And so here's kind of shows how far the ash actually moved with the wind. Traces, you could barely detect any of it. Little fell in Oklahoma because there was a storm and it rained down. Anyway, so that's May 18th, almost exactly 40 years ago. Okay, here's what the ash looked like, and Here's a sort of a microscopic view of it. You can see the expanding gases made little air bubbles in it and stuff. So it's pretty abrasive too. You wouldn't want to fly an airplane through that because it could seize up the engines and stuff just through the abrasiveness of it. And then what happened is it slid down here. The pyroclastic flow is what it's called. And then it had the mud flow. And that is, something we'll talk about in just a second. The pyroclastic flow, that's something you do not want to be anywhere near when that goes because it's like 600 degrees and it comes sliding down the side of the mountain and you do not want to be caught in that. This is the area where it flowed. You can see it was just like toothpicks where you can see the direction of the ash flow because the trees all fell down in that direction. And so you would not want to have been anywhere near there. And the lahar, it's called the mud flows here. Now this was actually not a picture from Mount St. Helens, but the lahar, the mud flow, is you have all this glacier, which is basically ice, right? You have all this water up on the top of the mountain. And then when the heat of the eruption happens, it melts all the water and that goes running down the side of the mountain. And that's actually the most dangerous part of a volcano, believe it or not. Most people don't know that, but it is true. And so Mount Rainier is dormant and stuff like that. They're keeping an eye on it. They have all kinds of monitoring stations and stuff. Technically, it's considered the most dangerous. But like I said, we'd have plenty of warning. But it is, occasionally gets seismic activity. This was in 2004. They were thinking, it might be erupting. What they're doing here, what this is called harmonic tremors. And they're detecting the rising of lava. So there was lava rising underneath Mount Rainier in 2004 and 2008 and 9. Again, little activity there. They're monitoring it closely. But here's the deal. Here's the national park, Mount Rainier National Park. The areas that are potentially in danger would be like Orting, right? Now, or Puyallup even. And the reason is that here, if you dig in the ground there, you can find deposits from about almost 6,000 years ago. There was a mud flow that actually went down as far as Puyallup and Enumclaw and buried these areas. Of course, there was no, there might have been Native Americans living there at the time, but that was before, Christopher Columbus by a long shot. Anyway, but they know it's possible. Mount Rainier erupted and the ice on it liquefied and then it went down the river valley and flowed down there and buried, we're talking like 10, 15 feet of mud, right? Orting, now we have earthquake drills at our school, right? Because we are in an area that can have earthquakes. In Orting, they not only have earthquake drills, they have volcano drills. I have a friend who teaches in Puyallup, and they have volcano drills. And they have to walk about a mile to go uphill to get out of that river valley. And so that's part of their drill is walking a mile after the drill. So luckily we don't have to do that because there's no way. I mean, I suppose if there's an eruption, ash could fall on Woodinville, but there's no way Woodinville would be destroyed or anything like that. But this is something that people in the Northwest need to know about and be aware of. Okay, so anyway, here's your assignment, all right? Aside from, watching the videos and answering the questions. Again, it doesn't have to be a huge, long, giant, enormous research project that takes you like hours and hours and hours. What I'm talking about is maybe an hour to 2 hours or whatever. I want you to make a slides presentation, research Mount St. Helens, okay? I want you guys to become familiar with it, with the story of it, that kind of thing. I'm not going to tell you the specific exactly this is what you have to say. I want you to research it and find out what you have to say, okay? 4 slides minimum, okay? 4 slides. Just talking about St. Helens and whatever interesting aspects you have in that. If you want to have the 4th slide be a like fun facts kind of thing, that would be kind of cool. And this one here, well, let's say 5 slides if you want. I do want you to have at least 3 sources of information, okay? So you have to cite your sources in this case. The last one, I didn't make you cite your sources. This one, I'm going to, okay? I want you to do a little bit of research I don't want you just to go to one source and, oh, here's everything I need to know. So, look around a little bit, okay? Again, I'm not expecting you to spend hour after hour on this. You should be able to get this done, in a couple of hours, I would think. And I'm going to give you 1 week to do it. It's going to be due before our next class period. All right. I will see you then. And next time, I'm going to teach a lesson about Northwest geology. 2 things that nobody knows about Northwest geology that are mind-blowingly amazing. We've had 2 colossal floods, one of lava and the other of water, and that have just formed Eastern Washington geology. We're going to talk about the geology of Eastern Washington. Okay, so anyway, I'll see you then, and get these assignments done. May the force be with you.